Hello everybody! Today I'm going to show you how I turned this thrifted men's shirt into a robe. That's today on Refashioning with Rachel. So first I drew a line down the center front of the shirt. And I cut along that line. Then I folded the shirt in half, matching up the shoulder seams and leaving just the back panel exposed. Then I took a shirt that fits me nicely and that I could use as a pattern and folded it in half. And then I lined up the shoulder seams of my fitted shirt to the shoulder seams of the thrifted shirt, and adding a centimeter for seam allowance, I drew in a new back seam. And I cut out that extra fabric, and I'm going to save it for later. Now with right sides facing, I pinned and sewed the new back seam. I used a zigzag stitch for the seam so that it would stretch with the fabric. And I went ahead and serged the seam after, but that's an optional step. Then I tried the shirt on and decided where I wanted my waist to be, and I marked that length onto the front of the shirt and made a line from that point to the collar and cut around that line. Then I cut off the collar around the back of the neck, and I cut out the left side of the shirt using what I cut off the right side of the shirt as a pattern. Then I made a mark for my waistline on the side seams of the shirt. And after trying it on, I decided I wanted to round off these little points on the front of the shirt. And then I hemmed all along the opening and the neck of the shirt. I made this hem by folding over the raw edge twice and securing it with a zigzag stitch. I made this hem all up the front of the shirt, around the shoulder, around the neck, and then all the way down the other shoulder and other side of the shirt. With the collar that I cut off the front of the shirt, I cut off just the ribbing piece and unfolded it and refolded it with right sides facing and sewed about 1/4 inch away from that fold. I trimmed off some of that excess fabric. Using a big fat embroidery needle, I threaded 10 inches of thread and tied a knot at the end. I put the needle through just a little bit of fabric and then caught the knot at the end. And I fed the needle through the tube of fabric backwards and pulled it all the way through. And gently pulling on the thread, I turned the tube right side out. I cut out 2 4-inch lengths. I located the waistline that I marked on the side of my shirt earlier, folded one of the belt loops in half, lining up the raw edges with the side seam of the shirt. Making sure the loop was really squished up into the seam, I pinned the loop in place and sewed it in place about 1/4 inch away from the side seam. And now this robe has belt loops. To make a belt, I used the strip of fabric that I cut off of the back and cut it in half lengthwise. I sewed the ends with right sides together, and I ironed down that seam. I folded down and ironed about 1 centimeter all along the top of the whole strip. I did the same thing at the bottom. And then I folded the strip in half and ironed that down. Then I sewed all along both sides of the belt. Starting with the edge that has 2 folds, I used a zigzag stitch and made the stitch very close to the fold. And at the end, I simply turned the strip around and made a zigzag stitch all along the other side of the belt. And now I have a nice comfortable belt that stretches just a little bit. And lastly, I simply folded over the ends of the belt twice and secured it with a stitch. And this robe is finished. This is a reminder of how the shirt looked before. And this is how it looks now. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed it, and please like and subscribe if you did. Have a beautiful day.